Hey friends, tonight we'll silently slip into the heart of ancient Rome, not to marvel at its glorious conquests or political intrigues, but to uncover a far darker, stranger side. While Rome gave us cobblestone streets, sophisticated sewers, and a foundation of law, it also devised bizarre, theatrical punishments that'll send chills down your spine like nothing else from the ancient world. If these chilling yet captivating tales of history help you unwind, hit like and subscribe, only if you're truly drawn in. Don't forget to drop a comment. Tell me where you're watching from and what time it is there. I'm always curious to see how far these stories reach before you drift off to sleep. Now, turn off the lights, pull up the covers, switch on a fan for that gentle hum, and let's step into the darkness of ancient Rome. You are a Vestal virgin, chosen from among thousands of noble girls, not because you were the most remarkable, but because on that day the gods' gaze lingered on you. They led you, merely 8 years old, from your mother's arms, from the home where you once played with straw dolls. From that day forward, you were no longer a carefree child. You became the living embodiment of Vesta, the keeper of Rome's fire, the guardian of purity, of order, and of the empire's very heart. Each morning begins with the wind whispering across marble columns, the sacred flame burning through the night. You step barefoot across the temple's cold stone floor, your white robe trailing behind you in the breeze, the scent of ash and incense hanging in the air. You must not let the fire die, for if it does, Rome will fall. No one explains why, yet you believe, because everyone believes. On stormy days, the flame wavers, your heart pounds. You bow low to reignite it with the sacred staff, murmuring prayers learned when you were 12. Your home is not a house. It is a world of chilling marble, where every word echoes and every footstep could invoke punishment. You learn to move silently, to speak softly, to sit with perfect posture, to never show fear, even though your eyes never leave the flame. Within those thick walls, you and the other Vestals have no mothers, no sisters, only one another, and ancient laws none dare break. Though you live side by side, each remains distant. Friendship cannot flourish where a single misplaced glance can mean death. You witness the imperial procession pass by, the thunder of marching soldiers, gilded chariots rolling across the forum. Citizens line the streets, bowing their heads, but you stand tall, for, though small, you are the living symbol of eternal Rome. Once, a condemned man was dragged through the square, his hands bound, his eyes frantic. He looked at you, you looked back. At that moment, he was spared. Rumor has it, your gaze can grant salvation, but you know it is borrowed power, power that will never be yours forever. On festival days, you join the sacrificial rites. Your hands sprinkle incense, your eyes watch blood mingle with red wine upon the earth. You feel no revulsion. It is duty. Fingers that once held dolls now grip the ceremonial knife. Knees that once bruised from play now kneel before the altar of the gods. They say that, in your silence, you have become the strongest woman in all of Rome. Yet when you lean your back against the temple wall at day's end, the scent of smoke clings to your hair. You feel only exhaustion. No one asks whether you wish for such strength. They only demand that you possess it. Everything you touch bears ritual. Even the bread you eat must be made from flour sifted through silk, baked in the sacred oven. You must not laugh too loudly. You must not run. You must not dream. If a man accidentally brushes your robe in the marketplace, he may face severe punishment. And if you respond, or worse, feel anything, the punishment falls on you. For a Vestal, emotion is a crime. Sometimes one of your sisters disappears. No one speaks of her. She once stood beside you at dawn ceremony. Now she no longer sits among you. Whispered rumors say she fell in love. Nothing grand, a hand held in darkness, a stolen conversation after the sacrifice, yet enough to deserve burial alive. No blade, no blood, only an underground chamber, a loaf of bread, a jug of water, and a tiny lamp burning like a dying hope. Death silent, yet all hear the earth as it falls. You have dreamed you were that woman. In your dream, you do not cry, you breathe. The space is narrow. The scent of soil stings your nose. Footsteps fade above. You open your eyes. Your heart races. You have done nothing wrong. And yet the dream repeats, not because you sinned, but because you know that fate hovers always above you, not bound by justice, but by suspicion. You do not rebel. No one rebels. Rome does not require rebellion. You are required to endure. You learn to hide your tears, to bow your head, to keep the flame alive while you yourself wither. Each passing year is not counted by age, but by the rites completed, by the winters survived, by the nights spent watching the fire. 30 years is a lifetime for many, but for a Vestal, it is merely part of her duty. When you are finally released, permitted to leave the temple, you scarcely recognize the world beyond. You stand in the marketplace, no guard at your side, no head bows. No one fears you, no one remembers your name. You return to being a woman, yet no one truly sees you as one. You move through the rest of your days like a shadow. Romans still speak of the brave Vestals, yet they never tell of the nights you trembled to keep the flame alive in the rain. They never speak of the times you closed your eyes, not in prayer, but to escape to another world. A world where you were not bound by oaths, where you were allowed to be human, like everyone else. You have murdered your own parents. In Rome, that is not merely a crime, it is a taboo so profound that no words can soften its horror. And the punishment is not a swift death. There is no single sword stroke, no public execution cheered on by the crowd. Rome, the city of noble statutes and rigid laws, reserves for this offense a penalty so bizarre it takes the breath away. The poena culae. The sentence in a sack. No metaphor, no irony. You are sewn into a large leather bag, accompanied by 4 unlikely companions: a dog, a monkey, a venomous snake, and a rooster. 4 creatures unrelated to each other, save for one dreadful bond. They will end your life together in a spectacle of drowning beneath the river's current. When you are condemned, there is no defense. Rome does not seek to understand why you did it. The law is law. And once you have shattered that sacred order, the city returns to you not judgment, but chaos. The leather sack is brought forth into the forum. It is not a grain bag nor a cloak. It is a living entity, reeking of sweat, animal hide, and time itself. They thrust you inside, not alone, but alongside the 4 panicked beasts. The dog barks incessantly, its eyes bloodshot. The monkey's wide eyes scream in terror and rage. The snake coils within its small wicker cage, hissing softly. And the rooster, perhaps the only creature unaware of the horror, crows loudly, as if tomorrow's dawn has already arrived. You are shoved within, between fur, claws, venom, and screams. The sack is sewn shut from the outside, each stitch piercing thick leather, as though Rome intends you never to return to the world above. Darkness, confinement, the stench of excrement, matted fur, slobber, and the greatest terror of all, surviving longer than one of those creatures. In the dark, every living being fights, not out of hatred, but instinct. The dog scratches, the monkey bites, the snake winds around your legs, and even the tiny rooster flaps wildly, as if striving to escape the nightmare. Rome chooses this method because they do not wish for bloodshed. You are a child of the gods, though you have gone astray. They cannot slay you with steel, yet Rome does not forbid you from dying of suffocation, from panic, from a snake's bite, or from your heart giving out under the monkey's weight. And to ensure no one forgets who you were and what you did, they carry the sack to the Tiber. No words are spoken, no dirge is sung, only a gentle shove, and the bag tilts, slipping into the cold waters below. The dog's barking fades, the monkey's cries die out. The snake, if it still lives, lies silent as stone. And you, once destined for a different life, sink to the riverbed as if you never existed. Those who witness it know nothing of what transpires inside the sack. They see nothing, only imagine. And perhaps imagination is far more terrifying. Some say this punishment is symbolic. The dog represents family. The snake, betrayal. The rooster, time's irreversible march. The monkey, nature's mockery of human sin. But most understand unequivocally. Rome chose this method because it etches a lesson deeper than any moral sermon. No written record is needed. A mere mention of the sack is enough to keep a child well behaved for a week. The next day, no one speaks your name. No tombstone marks your fate. No statue bears your likeness. Yet in whispered tales over dinner, in the unsettled nights when children cry, someone leans in and murmurs, "Behave, or you'll end up in the sack like him." And strangely, those words carry more weight than any decree. In Rome, the law is strict, but imagination wields the mightiest punishment. And that sack, with its 4 living beasts and 1 lost soul, has become an undying symbol of a lesson no child may ever forget. You think a man caught in scandal with a Vestal, the most revered virgins of Rome, would share her fate of burial alive in a cold tomb? Think again. Don't be fooled into believing Roman justice is equal for both sexes. If a Vestal breaks her sacred vow of chastity, she is honorably interred in a special vault, given only a loaf of bread, a small jar of water, a flickering oil lamp, and buried alive, no blood ever touching the soil. But the man? No tomb, no dim lamp. He is dragged into the forum, where the crowd gathers, and as expected, beaten to death, not by sword, not by hanging, simply pummeled until he can no longer move. Rods, clubs, even stones kicked up from the pavement. Rome demands no artistry in this, only speed, brutality, and a lesson to be learned. Unlike the stifling silence underground where Vestals lie entombed, a man's punishment unfolds amid cheers, shouts, and clouds of dust. No final loaf to gnaw, no trembling light, no sacred symbol. Just a limp body on the marble stones, broken teeth, flesh striking stone. This sounds like a scene from a gory epic, but to Romans it is ritual, serious, structured, lawful. How you die, where, and by what means, all symbolic. A Vestal's death is bloodless sacrifice, a way to appease the gods. A man's death, whether lover, illicit paramour, or fool, is a visual lesson for the citizens of Rome. Rome, draped in justice and law, never hid its bias. In that culture's eyes, a sacred woman's blood is holier than a man's. A man's fall may be public. The shame is theirs to bear. A woman's, especially a Vestal's, must never stain the earth. It would offend the gods. So they bury her, swallowing her blood and disgrace beneath the soil, not to absolve, but to erase. But the man, nothing needs hiding. Rome wants you, the common folk, to see his corpse, remember his ashen face, recall the cracking bones, and fear to ever repeat his crime. This is not justice. It is the stage of terror. You can picture the scene. Upon the cold stone steps, beneath a sky hardly gentle, the man is dragged forth to the citizens' scorn. No one prays for him. No one sheds a tear. Those who once drank alongside him, who clasped his hand in greeting, now turn away. For he dared to violate the greatest taboo, touching a Vestal, the living symbol of Vesta, the goddess who guards Rome's sacred flame. Meanwhile, deep beneath the earth where no cries are heard, that Vestal lies curled in darkness. No one touches her blood, yet she feels each shovel's thud above, the final beats of her life. Rome does not slay her with sword or blade. They kill her with silence, with ritual, with centuries-old tradition. But back to the man. There is a grim irony. His death is swift, unmistakable. There is no lingering minute after minute in the dark, Only a few brutal blows, and it ends. Brutal, yet final. In a world where death is commonplace, sometimes, to die quickly is a mercy. Rome never shies from blood, provided it is not a Vestal's. They see that line as the boundary between the divine and the mortal, between sacrifice and disgrace. And the man's beating to death is Rome's way of protecting that sacred shell. You may sit there, listening under a soft night light, thinking it all too severe. But to Romans, it was ordinary, a warning. Do not cross the line. Do not touch Vesta's flame. And never believe that the law will smile upon forbidden love. Because in Rome, to love the wrong person could make you a living or dying lesson for the entire empire. Dear viewers, if you've stayed with us this far, pause for a moment, stand up, take a cool drink of water, relax your shoulders, and breathe deeply. The next part of the story holds even more unexpected twists. And while you unwind, don't forget to tell us where you're watching from and what time it is in your corner of the world. It warms our hearts to know you're listening together from everywhere. If you find this tale captivating, leave a comment 1 below the video. Let us know you want more. Strange, chilling, captivating stories await you in the nights to come. Crucifixion. You might call it the signature dish of the Roman Empire. Not because it was efficient, but because it was majestic, in that twisted way of a civilization that loved to turn death into public spectacle. To be crucified was not simply to die. It was to endure a slow, drawn-out agony, a death where you felt each final heartbeat, each torn muscle fiber, each desperate gasp snatched away by the wind before you could draw breath again. But Rome thought, why stop there? They needed more color, more drama, more humiliation. And so, inverted crucifixion was born. You are not hung upright on the crossbeam like everyone else. No, you are hung upside down, head pointed earthward, feet bound skyward. Blood rushes straight to your head. Your heart pounds like a war drum, trying to pump against gravity. Your eyes blaze red. Your ears ring like bells. Your body convulses uncontrollably. And your lungs? They despise this posture. You scream, but your cries quickly turn to heavy moans. There is no breath left to shout. This is not a swift punishment. No. Rome did not do quick. Crucifixion, especially this form, was a lengthy drama with a massive audience and you as the star. Even death had to be performed. According to legend, Saint Peter, the apostle of Jesus, chose this punishment himself. When sentenced to die, he said he was unworthy to die as Jesus had. Noble, humble words, but Rome cared nothing for humility. They saw only an opportunity to make everything stranger. Upside down? Fine by us. And so Peter was crucified inverted. No heavenly light, only dust and gravel waiting beneath his head. You might think, facing down must kill faster, right? Wrong. Very wrong. The human body is a resilient machine. It does not surrender easily. Blood flooding your head blinds you momentarily. Your breathing weakens, but your heart still beats. Your lungs still expand. Your kidneys still filter. You hang there, not for minutes, but for hours, even a full day. A peaceful death is the one thing Rome never allowed. And don't forget, you do not die alone. Citizens gather. There may even be snack carts near the hill of crucifixion, if that does not horrify you. Children point and stare. Some laugh nervously. An old woman mutters, "Serves him right." Guards yawn, bored by the long shift. And you, center stage under the noon sun, your shadow cast on the parched earth. Of course, over time the symbol changed. The inverted cross, once a tool of torture, now hangs around the necks of rebellious rock musicians, a declaration, a challenge to belief. But to the Romans, it held no sanctity. It was merely a gravity trick. Sometimes people ask, why did Rome invent so many bizarre methods of death? The answer? Rome loved a spectacle. You betray the state? They put you in a sack with snakes. You insult the gods? They bury you alive. You're a runaway slave? They burn you as a torch. And if you're a criminal in need of public deterrence, they crucify you inverted, so the world sees justice in your upside-down posture. To the Romans, mere pain was not enough. It had to carry meaning. It had to teach. It had to leave a mark. And above all, it had to instill fear, deep fear. Because when you walk past Golgotha's path, or any execution site, and see someone's head pointed to the earth, trembling in the sun, you will think twice before stealing, 3 times before slandering the emperor, and 4 times before dreaming of heroism. And if you're still a dreamer, pray you hang the right way. You are a Roman soldier, one among countless ranks, your bronze shield gleaming, your armor heavy on your chest, your feet calloused from marching from Gallia to Syria. But tonight, you are not on guard, not building camp, not standing in formation. Tonight, you stand at attention, your heart pounding, sweat beading on your brow, because the centurion has just uttered a word that sends chills through every man. Decimatio. This punishment is not for you alone, it is for the entire unit. Because a squad fled, a cohort refused to fight, a legion broke ranks. It matters not whether you were among them. The Roman system cares little for fairness. It cares for order, and order is maintained by fear. Decimation sounds academic, as though a mathematical formula. In practice, it is systematic killing. For every 10 soldiers, they form a group, then draw lots. 1 in 10 pulls the death tally. No mercy, no reprieve. And the 9 survivors, those who have shared bread, sweat, blood, must carry out the sentence. You look at your closest comrade, Marcus, who shared the only scrap of cheese with you during 3 days of marching, who cradled you when an arrow flew by, who, just half an hour ago, had been joking crudely about Jupiter. And now, Marcus draws the fatal lot. There is no executioner, no stranger, only you, with a club or a stone from the ground, None flee, none dare weep. Tears are rebellion, and Rome abhors rebellion. Marcus does not plead, he simply nods. And you, and the 8 others, step forward. Each blow severs friendship, severs humanity, severs the fragile trust that you remain human. Afterward, his body is dragged away. No funeral, no torchlight, no last words, just a pool of blood staining the sand. You think the worst is over? Far from it. After decimation, you are demoted. You no longer eat fine wheat, the white grain reserved for legionaries. Now you eat barley, tough, bitter, hard to digest, what the Romans call animal fodder. And you eat it like an animal, head bowed, never daring to look straight. You do not sleep in a tent. You do not stand in line at dawn. No commendations, no honor stones. You are cast outside the fortress, sleeping on cold earth like a child driven from home. If it rains, you are drenched. If it freezes, you shiver. If wolves roam, may you have once learned to howl. And though no one speaks it, every eye knows, the stain of decimation marks your unit's honor, a shame that cannot be washed away, cannot be cleansed. General Crassus, the wealthiest man in Rome, deployed this punishment when his legions broke before Spartacus. He feared slaves. He feared disgrace. He did not need a sword, only a lot in a urn. They say that afterward, no one dared retreat a single step, not for fear of the enemy, but for fear of being slain by his own comrade. That, they say, is the ultimate discipline, when you fear your fellow soldier more than the sword of foe. You see, Rome doesn't need the guillotine, no need for the noose. They only need loyalty and a bag of lots. They don't need an executioner. They have you. And strangely, it works. After burying Marcus, you grip your shield tighter, march without complaint, chop wood without fatigue, train with renewed vigor, not because you love Rome more, but because you dare not share barley again. You dare not lie upon the earth. You dare not one day draw the lot and see your own name in bold. You once thought war was terrifying, but no, decimation is what truly shaves the soul clean. At night, you close your eyes. Marcus's face appears, not in death's embrace, but as he offered you that piece of bread. And then, in the startled moment you awaken, you hear the guards whistle, a soft, steady melody meant to lull the entire camp to sleep. You exhale. You are still alive. The next day, you fall back into line. This time, no one retreats. You live in an age when merely asking can brand you a heretic. A simple question, if God is merciful, why is there famine? Is enough to land you on the blacklist. You don't stone churches. You don't burn Bibles. You only ask. And so they give you a gift, not a crucifix, not forgiveness, but a small tool, no longer than a forearm, with 2 sharp, forged iron prongs, the heretic's fork. It is designed not to kill you, at least not yet. It only wants you to feel death, centimeter by centimeter. 1 prong is placed just beneath your chin, piercing the softest flesh. The other presses against your sternum, right between your ribs. The distance between them holds you upright, but does not allow movement. You cannot bow your head, for the spike will puncture your throat. You cannot raise your chin, for the prong will pierce your jaw and blood will trickle down. You cannot turn, you cannot inhale deeply, you cannot swallow without a stab of agony. You are forced to hold your posture, like a living statue, for hours on end, perhaps days, depending on how heretical they deem your beliefs. Stand perfectly still. Do not slump. Do not tire. You may not remain human. You once thought Rome was famed for its arenas, its crosses, its swords. But in the later age, they changed tactics. No killing, no bloodshed. They wielded endurance as a weapon. They took silence for a blade. You stand in a cold stone chamber. No windows. Only the flicker of candlelight glimmering on the metal spikes biting into your flesh. With every heartbeat, you feel it push gently against the iron's tip. And you remain silent. And then you know your heart is betraying you. You hear the bishop's footsteps behind you. They speak of you as if you're not there. One sneers. Just 2 iron prongs, and tears fall faster than any whip. Another chuckles softly. Kill a heretic, and he becomes a martyr, but leave him trembling and tormented. And who will join his cause? Around your neck, a leather cord bears a small wooden plaque inscribed in Latin. Abjuro heresim. I renounce heresy. Yet you have never spoken the words. Your lips are frozen in pain. You cannot protest. Rome writes for you. Rome speaks for you. Rome brands your confession upon your throat, as though labeling merchandise. You once believed truth was your strength, but now, every passing second finds you wishing only to be believed, like any other man. A man who bows without being speared. A man who lifts his chin without fearing his own blood. After the first hour, your shoulders begin to spasm. By the second hour, your knees grow weak. By the next day, you are no longer a body, but a tapestry of pain, trapped within a silent punishment. You do not scream. You cannot scream. For if you did, the prongs would shred your lips. You do not weep. For if you wept, tears would drip into the wounds. A sting so fierce, you think you taste acid. Each time you contemplate surrender, someone, a guard, a cleric, leans close and whispers, "Just confess. Sign the abjuration, then we will remove it." But you know their promise is hollow. They will keep you standing for hours more, as a living warning, as a billboard of agony. And if you die upright, they will write, "He chose the path of error to the end." If you live, they will write, "God has forgiven him, and his suffering has taught him his lesson." Either way, you lose. You think perhaps this fork is the simplest tool Rome ever fashioned. No need for fire, no need for stones, just iron and patience. When at last they remove the prongs, your neck is bruised. Your chest carries a hollow. Dried blood forms a dark streak. But oddly, you do not feel free. You feel hollow. Your mind cannot recall what you spoke, cannot recall what you believed. You know only this: stand too long, and you begin to fear motion. You lose sleep, for the pain is gone. And you understand. Rome needn't make you disappear. They only need to ensure you are no longer yourself. You have betrayed Rome, not the caught red-handed leaking secret scrolls kind of betrayal you see in spy tales. No, Rome doesn't need such complexity. All it takes is a whispered rumor, heard by the right ears, that you secretly attended the sermons of a rebel preacher, or criticized the Senate, or worse, doubted Jupiter's omnipotence. And so you are condemned for treason. There is no months-long trial, no defense counsel, no waiting for the next session of the assembly. Rome has a simpler method, a more elevated one. You will be brought to the Tarpeian Rock, the sheer cliff beside the Roman Forum, a stone wall some 25 meters high, high enough to shatter your body, yet not so high as to tempt mercy. Before the fall, you will make a parade, not a triumphant procession, but stripped naked, led through narrow streets, the crowd pressed on balconies, perched on rooftops, leaning from window sills, ready to hurl curses, or, on occasion, a rotten tomato, at you. You are not bound in heavy chains. No need, for Rome knows shame weighs heavier than iron. You step through the marketplace, past the watchtower, until you reach the cliff's edge. You stand there, or rather, you are forced to stand, on the cliff's edge, where the wind from the Tiber slaps your face, cold as a god's rebuke. Behind you, the temple of Jupiter, Rome's supreme sanctuary. Before you, empty air. Below you, jagged, nameless rocks, effective nonetheless. No one reads the charges. No one asks, "Any last words?" You don't need last words. Rome executes you so you remain silent forever. And then, a push, not a mighty shove, not needed. A gentle nudge is enough for gravity to finish the job. You fall. There is no soundtrack, only wind, only the gasp caught in your throat, and that strange moment when you see Rome shrink in your vision. Do you think of your family? Perhaps. Do you reflect on your crime? Perhaps not. Maybe you only think, at least, this view is pretty. And then, crack. Not an explosion like in the plays, just a dry, brutal snap. Bone slams against stone. Your skull shatters like a clay pot. Limbs break at unnatural angles. You may not die instantly. Rome does not care. They only care that you are no longer you. They say Tarpeian Rock is named for Tarpeia, the maiden who betrayed Rome to the Sabines in exchange for gold. She opened the gates and was crushed to death by the Sabines under their bronze shields as their own bloody gift. Rome took her story and made it symbolic. No books needed. They performed it live. From then on, anyone who betrayed Rome, even by fanning the flames of war or uttering a single false word, could be sent off Tarpeian style. That cliff became a sentence written without ink. Look up, and you know who is gone. Look down, and you understand Rome's message. Perhaps the most terrifying thing about the Tarpeian Rock isn't its height, but its location. It sits at the heart of power, right behind the Senate's halls, behind the sacred rites, behind the oaths sworn, lies the place where Rome discards its former ones. It was the ancient unfriend button. But once you fell off Rome's friends list, you lost more than contact. You lost gravity. Rome didn't only want you dead. They wanted you forgotten. No tomb, no ceremony, no record. Your body, if the guards were merciful, would be dragged toward the river. If not, you'd become fertilizer for social stability. From a distance, the people saw this and learned a brief lesson. Don't be a fool. And thus, order was maintained. The Tarpeian Rock no longer exists, as an execution site at least. But the idea still echoes. We've swapped stone for keyboards. The crowd no longer hurls tomatoes, but vicious comments. And the push can come from a single click. The only difference is, today, when you fall, you still live long enough to read every word. But in those days, you had only one chance to see Rome from above. Then silence. Forever. You step into the arena. Sunlight streams through the stone arches. Golden dust swirls in the air, and 50,000 voices roar like thunder. They do not call your name, for you have none. You are a criminal, a traitor, a heretic who would not kneel to Rome's gods. And today, you are the feast for wild beasts. This is not a trial, nor a simple execution. This is damnatio ad bestias, condemnation by beasts, a spectacle only Rome can elevate to the scale of a festival. You are not garbed in a prisoner's tunic or shackled in chains. No, you are costumed like a figure from an ancient play, perhaps Orpheus with a lyre, planning to soothe the monster with music, or Prometheus, bound as the eagle descends. The crowd loves such pageantry. They have seen hundreds of executions. Now they demand art, told in blood. You might wear goose feather wings bound with rope, or a gilded cap holding a fake torch. These props won't save you. They only make your dismemberment more entertaining. When the wooden gate at the far end creaks open, you smell old blood and dung. The beast, lion, bear, or leopard, steps forth, gaunt, starving, furious, yet sometimes lazy, tired, refusing to leap in immediately. And Rome cannot disappoint its audience, so men stand behind wooden slats, prodding the creature's flank with red-hot iron pokers, driving it mad. When the fangs come for you, you have no sword, no shield. Perhaps they fling you a wooden spear, just enough hope to deceive you, not enough to slay. You run, barefoot on searing sand. You fall, you scramble up, you scream. But the roar of the crowd drowns you out. Some applaud when you narrowly dodge a mauling. Some cheer as your blood splatters the arena floor. Children munch pastries. Adults sip wine. and you are merely an act in the midday show. Once, a man lost a leg to the beast, but crawled onward, begging mercy. None was given. The crowd wants you to linger in agony, long enough for their eyes to imprint the memory. Each execution is a drama, structure, characters, climax, a bloody finale. The spectators do not come merely to watch you die, but to feel Rome alive. For when an enemy bleeds at their feet, they believe the empire eternal. But you know this is false. You know once your blood dries, only sand and wind remain. Another will take your place, and the lion will be hungry once more. You may have been a rebellious slave, a Christian refusing Jupiter's sacrifice, or merely spoken the wrong word at the wrong time. Now, none of that matters. Your name is struck from the rolls. No kin may bury you. Your corpse, or what remains, will be dragged from the sands and left to the crows. Each tearing of flesh is a warning. Rome needs no sermons. Its lions are its priests. The arena is its pulpit. You are not a criminal. You are the illustration. They say martyrs face death with unshakable faith. In truth, most eyes betray terror. Knees tremble. For no man, however brave, can hold an ideal steady when razor-sharp jaws slam toward him. Death here is not swift, not dignified. It is slow, messy, and thunderous. You may be torn in two, and yet still breathe. You may live past the first minute, which is worse than dying outright. The beast might abandon you halfway through, forcing the soldiers to finish you behind the scenes, a backstage finale no one wants to see. To Rome, none of that matters. What matters is the applause and the lesson learned. If you intend rebellion, if you refuse to bow, if you question authority, remember, Rome does not debate. It simply unlocks the cage. And you, whoever you might be, are the feast. For the empire does not thrive on justice. It thrives on fear, and you, today, are the banquet of that fear. You are a Roman senator, your toga white with a crimson stripe, your signet ring heavy on your finger, every step echoing through the marble hall, eyes of respect upon you. You are a man of reason, of rhetoric, of compromise. But then, you speak out of turn. A sarcastic quip, a gaze deemed disrespectful, or worse, a private letter exposed, suggesting you conspire against the emperor. And so it arrives. A small scroll delivered quietly to your house. No sentence, no trial, only a suggestion to choose death. Polite, formal, like an invitation to your final banquet. You understand the meaning. Accept, and your family's property remains intact. Your name stays among the ancestral rolls. Perhaps a small statue endures in the temple's corner. But refuse? Say no? Claim innocence? Or simply tremble? Then you will be dragged to the arena, before the roaring crowd, dissected like a cowardly traitor. No tomb, no honor, no rest. Seated in your study, you gaze at the wine cup, or the vial of poison, or the small dagger on its silver tray, and every honor of the old republic condenses into one decision. Will you take your own life to preserve what remains for your loved ones? You recall Seneca, the philosopher, tutor to Emperor Nero, who wrote of reason and death as gentle as sleep. Yet when condemned for treason, Rome afforded him no rest. He was forced to die as a vivid lesson for all philosophers. Seneca chose suicide, not once. First, he cut his wrists, but the blood flowed slowly in old age. Then he drank poison, ineffective. Finally, he entered a hot bath, steam rising like a purification rite. He spoke his final words, perhaps moral instruction, perhaps a soft groan. No one knows. But Rome's message was clear. His death must be beautiful, befitting his intellect, and, above all, a statement. Suicide in Rome was unlike anywhere else. It was an obligation, a performance, a finale crafted as in a tragedy. A senator must not die in filth or terror. You must tidy your stole, wipe the knife, and smile as the blade whispers across your wrist. You must recite poetry, quote Cicero, or at the very least, stand silent, like a thoughtful statue. And here lies the paradox. Rome called this dignity, a self-removal, like brushing dust from a prized table. If all would die quietly, Rome would need no executioner. They would send only the scroll, a bloodless severance package. Sometimes a man refuses. He downs the wine, hurls the scroll across the table, shouting, "I served this republic all my life." But by dawn, the soldiers arrive, and instead of a gentle death in your bath, you are dragged from your home, hair disheveled, robe torn. Your shouts no longer orations, but the last echo of one stripped of choice. To Rome, the question is not whether you live or die, but how you do it. You are a senator. You must die like a senator. No tears, no pleadings, only the blade and the dense silence. The drop of blood on the stone is not a stain. It is your final signature upon a once great republic. And afterward, they come to mop the floor. Your family may keep some of your estate, if fortune smiles upon them. Your name may be omitted from the annals, or struck from the family tombstone. But Rome endures, with its lessons, its whispered warnings, and its cold, blank scrolls waiting to be delivered. You are dragged into the square, your hands bound behind you. The crowd's roar crashes like waves upon the shore. It matters not if you are a bungling thief, a slave with a loose tongue, or a mutinous soldier. Rome needs no elaborate justification. They have the wooden horse, ready and waiting. It is no gentle creature of fairy tales. It is a device of exquisite agony, an A-shaped frame of hardened timber, its ridge as sharp as a blade. It all seems simple, until you are forced to sit astride it. You struggle, but your arms are wrenched back. A guard pins your shoulders. He drives you down onto that cruel peak. The first sensation is freezing cold, then a blaze of pain. Your buttocks part, flesh tearing. Agony slices up your spine like a sword, but the torment does not end there. A sack of stones is hung from your ankles, and in an instant, your entire weight crushes onto the tender flesh, split in two. You want to faint, but Rome does not permit it. Some are bound upside down to prevent blood from pooling in their heads. Some are beaten if they dare close their eyes. Pain is the purpose, and staying conscious is the rule. If you are a deserter, this message from your commander echoes in your ears. Whoever turns away, look upon the bleeding man. Sometimes the torture happens not on the battlefield, but in the marketplace. Common folk gather, selling turnips, carting poultry, eating and watching you writhe on the frame. Children point, adults smirk. Someone flings grape skins, someone shouts curses. You are no longer a man, you are a lesson in flesh for society. More insidious variants exist. Some horses are forged of metal. In the blaze of noon, they burn the flesh that presses against them. In winter's chill, they bite to the bone. Some bear hidden blades or countless tiny spikes, so that each seat feels like 1,000 ants gnawing from within. To sit becomes no simple act. Rome turns taking a seat into a bloody satire. The condemned never know how long they will be forced to endure. An hour? 3? The whole day? It depends on the ruler's whim. Some are starved on the frame. Some die quietly of blood loss. Some, upon release, never walk normally again. Each step a vivid reminder. Do not challenge Rome. How your body reacts becomes part of the spectacle. Blood drips to the ground, sweat streams, tremors rack your limbs. The moans and the glazed stare, all precisely what Rome craves. They need no heavy chains, only a wooden frame, a handful of stones, and one fool foolish enough to defy orders. In the camp, the wooden horse serves as a moral teacher. A soldier sleeps on watch, neglects his armor, or speaks ill of his centurion. All can be made to ride the horse. One veteran recalled that after 2 hours on the frame, he would rather face 3 German warriors than endure that lesson again. Terror of pain transforms the army into a flock of obedient sheep. Do not mistake the aim. Rome does not seek your death. Rome wants you to live. Live to tell the tale. A single searing ride is worth 100 spoken warnings. At last, after hours, you are released. Your skin is shredded. Your muscles convulse. You do not weep. Your tears have run dry. You do not scream. Your throat is parched. You lie there, a flattened slab of flesh, breathing only by fortune. The crowd applauds. The show is over. People return to pickled vegetables and roasted meat. No one asks your name. No one cares what you did. You are the rider of the horse. When night falls and you drag yourself from the square, you may swear oaths never to defy a guard again, never to steal even a crust of bread, never to speak ill of Caesar, and above all, never to sit again unless you are certain that no spike lies beneath the seat. Rome instructs you with fire, with blood, and with those A-frames of wood. No lesson is gentle. No punishment is unseen. Every transgression becomes a waking nightmare of bone and flesh. And when you close your eyes that night, the pain remains. As the final reminder, office chairs may be terrible, but at least they have no spikes. You steal a loaf of bread, or a dress, or perhaps you're falsely accused, but in Rome, that matters little. When the guard seizes you, there is no elaborate trial, no defense attorney. They need only a red-hot iron and a single letter, F for fur, thief. A straight stroke, a horizontal line, a burning touch upon your skin to remind you and the world that you have transgressed. Worse still, if you are a runaway slave, your brand reads FUG for fugitivus. Those 3 letters do more than sear your flesh. They scorch every chance at a new life. Repentance means nothing. A plea for freedom falls on deaf ears. From that moment, you cease to be human. You become a living notice, a mobile milestone of punishment. That iron brand scorches your forehead or cheek, where all can see. Each time you pass the market stall, the vegetable vendor pauses. A child points and asks, "What did that person do?" The mother tugs her child away, not sparing you a glance. Their eyes pierce your flesh more sharply than the brand's heat. Bathing, shaving your head, changing your tunic, none erases that mark. It endures. It cannot vanish. You consider tattooing over it, perhaps a flower, a falsified inscription, some cover-up symbol. But if discovered, your punishment doubles. The guard might pummel you in the street. Your master might drag you back, carve away the false ink, and rebrand the original, deeper, larger. Try to erase it with fire? Rome wields a hotter flame. Dream of fleeing your past. The scar on your skin secures you to it. Even if you live to Constantine's more merciful reign, that mercy only shifts the brand's placement. No longer on your face. It moves to your wrist. Less humiliating, perhaps, yet still a permanent judgment. You shake another's hand, and there FUG flashes from your wrist, reminding all who see that you are who you are, that you did what you did, and that you must never forget. Not everyone bearing the brand is truly guilty. Some are betrayed by masters. Some stumble into the wrong word or the enemy's trap. But the iron brand knows no justice, hears no excuses. It hisses red hot and imprints itself forever upon your flesh. You seek honest work. But who will hire a man marked F? Who allows you near money, merchandise, anything of value? Even menial labor is scarce. The world shuns one branded a thief. Each time you gaze into a mirror, you see not yourself, but the stigma Rome has burned into you. That label will neither peel off nor wash away. And should you hope time heals all wounds? Rome disagrees. That brand is designed to endure, not only on your skin, but in everyone's memory. It is Rome's means of control, not with chains, but with shame. You carry your sentence like a charred shadow. Everywhere you go, you draw suspicious glances, whispered gossip, and silent doors closing behind you. Some choose exile in the shadows, eking out a living at the city's edge, cleaning sewers, carrying refuse, disposing of carcasses. Others, embittered, return to crime, because society spares them no chance for redemption. Yet Rome cares not which path you choose. Once marked, you remain so. And when you die, the brand remains, etched upon your bones, if not consumed by fire, a final testament that you once existed, as a cautionary tale. In Rome, justice is not redemption. It is the etching of guilt upon the flesh, so the world may never forget. You stand in the forum. Your throat is parched. Your heart hammers in your chest. The crowd encircles you, eerily silent. A soldier holds a sharp iron rod. His hand does not tremble. You have been accused of insulting the gods, blaspheming the emperor, or whispering forbidden words, heresy, rebellion, dangerous ideas. No drawn-out trial is needed. In Rome, words can topple an empire, and equally justify cutting them away. 2 guards seize your arms. A crude wooden gag is forced between your jaws, prying your lips apart and anchoring your tongue in place. You writhe. Tears stream down your face, but no one cares. No anesthesia, no consolation, only the clash of metal on flesh and a single, icy cold slice. Your tongue is torn out. The organ once used to speak, to sing, to pray, to love. Now there remains only a void. Your cries choke in your throat. Black, bitter blood flows. A coarse cloth is shoved into your mouth to stem the bleeding. You collapse, but are dragged away like spoiled goods. The crowd disperses. No one remembers your name. A man who dared speak the wrong word now can never speak again. That is the point of this punishment. Not to kill you, but to make you live as a warning. In those days, to speak of Christian faith was deemed dangerous. Preaching, proselytizing, singing hymns, all could be seen as provoking authority. If caught, having your tongue cut out was among the lightest penalties. For Rome did not fear the beliefs you held. It feared the words you might cast into the world. You may survive if the wound does not fester. Some will care for you, spoon-feeding soft porridge, gently cleansing the dried blood from your lips. Yet in their eyes you see hesitation. One without speech is thought cursed or punished by the gods. You become a specter of yourself. Over time, you learn to write, if fortune granted you literacy. You pen the words you long to speak, yet nothing can replace the living voice, its tone, its inflection, its passion, its pleading. Rome has not taken your life, but it has taken away what made you human, your voice. Not all who insult the divine are tongue cutters, but a single misheard whisper, a phrase misunderstood, sufficed to hush you forever. Rome demanded no ironclad proof, only a pretext to instill fear and silence. And therein lies the crux, fear. Rome did not merely punish you, it punished through you. Each time someone sees you pass by, lips sealed, eyes hollow, they remember. Silence is survival. To speak can mean blood. Stories circulate of the tongueless, told like ghost tales. Some say they become mute prophets, conveying messages only through their gaze. Others claim they vanish into the woods, where no one asks their opinion. Yet most are simply forgotten, unable to recount their own lives. Silence in Rome was not merely the absence of sound, it was a system, a tool of control, an invisible yet merciless law. In a world where every word could be a crime, silence became both sanctuary and prison. So as you sit now in darkness, hearing this story, imagine the horror of losing your voice. One foolish moment, one whispered word, and you are silenced forever. In Rome, such fates were real, and they spoke not of mercy, but of power. That true authority lies not only in the sword, but in deciding who may speak, and who must remain mute for life. You are condemned for treason. No appeal, no lawyer. Rome needs none of that. Your guilt is already decided, recorded, sealed. On the day of sentencing, guards lead you through the public square, where a crowd gathers as if for a play. But this drama has no happy ending, and you are the lead. The wooden wheel stands ready, not the kind that draws carriages, but a sentence incarnate, a rotating frame. Each plank is not merely structure, it is where every bone of yours will meet its fate. You are lashed to it, arms outstretched, legs splayed, your body a living quotient of agony. They do not blindfold you. No, Rome wants you to stare straight ahead, at the executioner, at the crowd, at the perverse justice you represent. Your executioner is no stranger. He is the local torturer, hands calloused, face impassive. Not because he is cruel, but because he is accustomed. He wields an iron cudgel, thick, heavy, blunt, because in Rome, death must burn slow, not swift. The first blow cracks your arm. Snap. Not the first scream, but the sound of bone shattering, a gasp that halts every breath. Next comes the other arm, then your legs, then your hips. The strikes do not kill, but crush, body splintering under ruthless force as if snapping reeds by hand. The pain is not merely agony, it is disintegration, each fragment of you torn yet still alive. Your bones are now dust, but the sentence continues. They string rods, iron spikes or wooden stakes, through your broken limbs, binding you into the wheel, as if your body were part of its architecture. You are hoisted upright, a living monument. The crowd roars, not in hatred of you, but because Rome has taught them that justice must have sound, spectacle, a victim in torment, so that the rest may rest easy. You do not die immediately. The wheel stands outside the city gate, so passers-by see you. By day, the sun bakes your fractured form. By night, cold wind cuts through exposed bone. You cannot sleep, move, or even weep aloud, for a single twitch makes your broken parts grate like stone. Vultures circle, awaiting their feast. Children pelt you with stones from afar. Guards do not intervene, because you are no longer a man, but a symbol. Time becomes a blur. The sun rises and sets. You lose count of the days. Each hour is a trial. Can you endure? Can you still hear? Do you still want to live? Answers fade. But Rome is not in a hurry. They do not need you dead quickly. They need you alive long enough to be seen. That is why the wheel sits where crowds pass. Children to school, slaves fetching water, guards changing watch. Each witness learns. Do not betray. If you do, here is your fate. Sometimes, if you are fortunate, or if a guard takes pity, a final strike ends your torment. But often, no one comes. Because Rome does not pardon you. They need you as a prolonged lesson. The wheel may stand for days, until you quietly cease to breathe. And even then, your body remains a while longer. For Rome believes justice does not end with your last breath. To break you on the wheel is not simply death. It is total destruction. Body, mind, dignity. No tomb, no funeral rite, no name carved in stone. You are unworthy of remembrance in Rome's teaching. You are but a scream, a mangled corpse, a cautionary tale. Yet this punishment did not vanish with Rome's fall. In the Middle Ages, the wheel returned, from France to Germany, in churchyards and market squares. People devised new horrors, adding spikes, cranking the wheel into flames, hanging victims upside down. The longer, the more excruciating, the better. Condemned souls might or might not deserve it, but once strapped to the wheel, all were equal, writhing and disintegrating before the public eye. You may ask, why such cruelty? The answer is simple: because it works. Fear is the sovereign's mightiest tool. Rumors of the wheel's cruelty can quell an entire town. A single body on the spokes can teach a generation not to question. And Rome, and every empire after, understood that. They did not kill to punish. They killed to educate. Today, the wheel survives only in books. But if ever you hear wood creaking in a square, or glimpse a gaunt figure motionless on a wheeled frame, you will remember. Justice, in the hands of power, is not always fair. Sometimes it is just a wheel, slow, ruthless, and unceasing, until you disappear. You insulted Emperor Nero. Perhaps a veiled remark, a mocking poem, or even a poorly timed glance. In Rome, especially under Nero's rule, such an offense was not merely rude. It was a capital crime. But not a simple death. Under Nero, death was theater, and you were the star of your own final act. To die well was to perform. They bound you, dragged you to the public square like a traitor. No chance to plead, no ears left to hear you, for offending the emperor was unforgivable. Guards gagged you with cloth, not to silence your screams, but to preserve the ceremony's decorum. A pit was dug, neither too deep nor too shallow, just enough to bury you up to your neck. Shovelfuls of earth covered first your legs, then your waist, then your chest. Your body sank into the ground like a tree forced underground, each layer of soil stripping away your power, first to walk, then to struggle, until only your head remained, your guilty head. With your head peeking above the soil, a funnel was thrust into your mouth. You could neither speak nor close your lips. Then the ashes began to fall, not cold cinders, but searing ash from sacred woods, temple ruins, and the pyres of heretics. Those tiny burning granules carried Rome's heat, its acrid scent, and the weight of imperial judgment. They poured into your throat like sand in an hourglass. Discomfort gave way to coughing, then choking. Your lungs rebelled, but you could neither inhale nor exhale. Each breath became a life or death choice, but you had no choice. Your body fought to breathe, and the ash burned you from within. Your throat convulsed, your tongue blistered, your nostrils strained, but panic only tightened its grip. Your heart pounded, yet blood carried no oxygen. Your mind swam, but worst of all, you remained conscious, acutely aware of every step of the onlookers, every murmur in the crowd. Some shuddered, others looked away. None dared intervene. Rome did not slay you with blade or flame or beast. They killed you with ash. Ash swept away each dawn, trodden under every slave's foot, scattered by the wind. Ash made lethal. For Rome wanted you to understand. You were unworthy of steel. You were unworthy of fire. You were not even worthy of blood. Ash is the reminder that you are mere refuse, no name, no tomb, no epitaph. You will vanish like the very ash that kills you, silently, disgracefully, leaving nothing behind but a wisp of dust in the wind. Death does not come at once. The human body is stubborn. You struggle with your eyes. You gag on stifled coughs. The ash keeps falling, steadily, indifferently. The funnel becomes the neck of life's bottle. You are turned into a vessel, but instead of wine, they pour ash. No official record chronicles this punishment, yet survivors spoke of it. Death was not only of the flesh, but of the soul. They felt themselves eroded, erased, ground down by the lightest thing on earth. Nero loved beauty. He loved music. He loved cruelty as art. To him, this punishment was a symphony of suffocation. No blade, no blood, only the silence of earth, the rasp of falling ash, and endless coughing. Nothing terrifies a dissenter more than knowing they will die without a single scream. And so you go, a nod from the guard, and the ash stops. Your head bows. No movement remains. No bells toll. No eulogy is spoken. They shovel earth. They cover you. Ash blends with soil. You disappear as if you never existed. The next morning, the square lies spotless again. They sweep away the last traces of ash. Perhaps one mote drifts up, settling on a child at play. No one knows. No one remembers. Because you were killed not only in body, but in oblivion. Rome triumphs, not by sword, but by dust. They bind your hands and shackle your feet, not with simple rope, but with oiled leather straps. With every step, those straps bite deeper into your flesh, a cruel reminder that resistance is meaningless. They drag you down a narrow stone corridor where dim light filters through cracks in the masonry. Outside, the crowd's roar echoes, a roar not of anger, but of eager anticipation for a spectacle unlike any other. You know what awaits you, and oddly, it is not fear that seizes you, but a hollow chill, as though every emotion has been sucked away by black pitch. In a dark corner stands your garment. It resembles a simple tunic, the kind soldiers or slaves might wear, but this is unmistakably different. It has been soaked in pine resin, tree pitch, and animal fat, the most flammable substances in all Rome. As the guard presses you into it, the acrid stench chokes your senses. The fabric clings to your skin instantly. Every slight movement makes you feel as if you have become a torch, merely awaiting a spark. They thrust you into the arena, or rather, push you out. The night air is cool against your burning flesh. Above, Rome's sky is ablaze, not with stars, but with hundreds of living torches arrayed in Nero's garden. You are one among them. No one asks your name. No one proclaims your crime. Here, identity doesn't matter. You are a symbol, a sacrificial flame. They force you upright against a wooden frame and lash your back to a pole of iron. No sitting, no kneeling, no collapse. You stand like a statue, except this statue is fashioned from flesh, blood, and pitch. You hear footsteps, not hurried nor hesitant, and there comes the torchbearer. His face is as cold as bronze, neither wrathful nor gentle, merely a functionary in this ritual. The flame approaches, but does not touch you yet. It hovers near the tunic, so you feel its heat on your skin. The pitch hisses. Then, in a single instant, it erupts. Not a single wick aflame, but the entire garment igniting as though fire had lurked beneath its fibers. The blaze envelops you, licking upward from feet to face, allowing no time to struggle. The roar that fills the amphitheater is not your cry. It is the crowd's delight. They cheer, not in compassion, but in intoxication, as though witnessing the incarnation of a god. Only this god is condemned to burn. You would scream, but your voice is stolen by flame. You would thrash, but iron bonds you fast as a nightmare you cannot wake from. You think of water, ponds, streams, even raindrops, but all such memories vanish in this inferno. The agony is more than flesh. It burrows into your mind as though your very soul is melting away. The scent of burning flesh, the crackle of scorched hair, the snap of melting fat. These compose Nero's preferred anthem for his feast. Around you, other human torches blaze, each one a grisly note in this symphony of horror. Some heroes have bowed heads, others stand rigidly defiant. Some have long since perished, their charred forms propped by iron rods like ebony statues. You can no longer distinguish your own shape from the one beside you. Flames reduce you all to a flickering red blur against the night. Far above, on a dais among Nero's gardens, he reclines with wine in hand, smiling and occasionally humming a tune. To him, this is art. Living theater, he calls it. These human torches are the lights of his midnight revelry. You have become a lamp, not to illuminate, but to wield power, to proclaim his authority by consuming you in the most beautiful fire imaginable. Time drags as the flames devour you. A single minute stretches like an hour. Then, slowly, the pain recedes, not because the fire dies, but because your nerves have surrendered to oblivion. Your skin sloughs away, revealing blackened flesh beneath. Your eyes are blind, your nose cannot smell, your ears are deafened. Yet you remain upright, for iron binds you fast. Death arrives like irresistible sleep, slow, agonizing, absolute. At dawn, they clear Nero's garden. All that remains is ash, twisted iron, and smoldering scraps of pitch-black cloth scattered across the ground. Your name is never recorded. No tombstone marks your passing. No one mourns you. Yet you are remembered, not as the person you were, but as the manner in which you burned. And in Rome, that is how an anonymous soul earns its final renown. As fire, as ash, as a memory seared into the night. You were once someone of great importance, perhaps an emperor, a senator, or a triumphant general, your name carved in stone, your likeness towering in the forum, your face stamped on coins, your voice echoing through the annals of history. But then you did something that enraged Rome. Not merely a betrayal, not simply a defeat, but an offense so grievous that the entire empire decreed you unworthy even of memory. You were condemned to damnatio memoriae, not to extinguish your flesh, but to erase your very essence from history. No execution, no pyre. Instead, Rome took up the hammer. One by one, statues bearing your image were removed from temples, squares, and triumphal arches. Not shattered at once, but painstakingly defaced. Nose, eyes, mouth once sculpted with masterful skill, now sunk into blank hollows. You ceased to be a man and became a void. Then came your name, once proudly inscribed in Latin on stellae, city walls, and victory arches, scratched away, pounded out, not wiped clean with ink, but gouged with chisel, with blood, with the unyielding resolve to deny you posterity. Portraits of you in frescoes were ordered altered, your features obscured or replaced with another's. Coins bearing your face were melted down and recast, ensuring no one would recall that you had ever symbolized power. Your name in official records was left blank, replaced by traitor, or struck entirely from the page. The fate of Emperor Geta stands as the most infamous example. Murdered by his own brother Caracalla in their mother's arms, Geta did not merely die. He was driven from collective memory. Over 20,000 images of Geta were destroyed. Every inscription bearing his name was chiseled away, as though he had never walked the earth. History itself was rewritten in blood. You were slain by Rome's sword once, by its hammer a second time, and by its silence a third. No tomb marks your passing. No rites to honor your memory. No legends preserve your deeds. Your descendants are forbidden even to speak your name. Any historian who wished to survive would be compelled to rewrite your story as though you were no more than a shadow at history's edge. Those who once worshipped you are now urged to forget. Every effort you made to endure in the communal memory is strangled, line by line. You might reflect on emperors like Nero or Caligula. Brutal, yes, but at least their names still appear in books. But you, Rome decreed that you were not to be loathed. You were only to be erased. The horror lies in your inability to defend yourself. No one may plead your case. Even those who might could be condemned alongside you, not to die, but to vanish from memory. In a society where honor is life's goal, losing one's reputation is to lose everything. There is no retelling your victories, no sharing your lessons, only the blank expanse of history where your name once stood. And the most terrifying truth? You can never know when it ends. Each time another line is chiseled away, another letter gouged out, another statue dismantled, it is another killing of you. Not for a new crime, but because Rome denied you rest. You became the story no one may tell, the whispered name no one dares to repeat. Today, we call this cancel culture. Yet modern cancellation can be reversed. Apologies posted. Social media forgiveness granted. For you, damnatio memoriae knew no undo. It is the utter disappearance, carried through centuries, leaving history before a blank stone saying simply, "No one ever stood here." That was not the death of your body, but the death of your memory. And in Rome, that was the gravest crime of all. Every punishment in Rome, from the tightly stitched hide bag with dog, serpent, and rooster, to Nero's blazing tunic in the imperial garden, was never merely about killing. They were cunning instruments, staged to sow terror, to etch the empire's power deep into every Roman's mind. Roman executions were not judicial sentences. They were lessons for the spectators, symphonies of flesh and fire, sermons without words, written in bone and scorching steel. Consider the Vestal Virgin who broke her vow of chastity. No blood spilt, because a Vestal's blood is too sacred for soil, so she was buried alive in darkness and silence. This was punishment without cries or blades, yet it shook all Rome. Behind that act lay a warning. The gods are watching. Rome, as their hand, will show no mercy. The Vestal did more than die. She became a symbol of the razor's edge between faith and catastrophe. And if you betray Rome, they won't stab you. They'll push you from the Tarpeian rock. A simple fall, a simple death. Yet it was staged with ritual. Your clothes stripped away, you paraded before the mob, then cast down like refuse. No one buries you. No one remembers you. Your death hurts less than the way you are seen. An indelible stain society must scrub away. Rome accomplished this not with words, but with each calculated drop, unyielding, cold. With damnatio memoriae, Rome didn't merely kill you, it erased your shadow from the communal memory. This punishment awaited those once enshrined in stone, minted on coins, recorded in histories. When you offended, be it politics or simply embarrassing the state, Rome no longer spilled your blood. It wiped you away. It chiseled your name from every document, shattered every likeness, burned every copy. Your name would never again be uttered. Your family could not mourn. Thus Rome killed you twice, once by blade, again by silence. Even the fiery cloak, which might sound blunt, bind a man, soak him in pitch, ignite him, was nothing less than true theatrical spectacle. Nero did not burn his victims in the shadows. He burned them in his garden, amid music and wine, laughter and torchlight. For it was not execution, It was propaganda. Those immolated became beacons. They lit the emperor's power and warmed his revels. And what did the people learn? That worship the wrong flame, or simply be chosen, and you yourself may become a living lantern. Simple, unmistakable, unforgettable. Even to the soldiers, Rome's backbone, punishment was no less savage or symbolic. Decimation, grouped in tens, 9 slaying one comrade, wasn't justice. It was a bloody drama among men who had shared bread. To live, you had to murder your friend. And Rome willed it. They wanted soldiers to fear one another, to dread orders, to fear weakness itself. Discipline came not from law, but from knowing that a single misstep, collective or not, could see you slain by your very comrades without a single enemy's blade. Rome did not govern by statute, but by living legend. Each punishment was a ritual, a civic liturgy. They unfolded in public spaces, with an audience, at appointed times, in strict sequence, like a grand play. They were never trials. They were instruction. Every Roman, from slave to senator, understood. Stray from the prescribed path, and you become the next act. Cruel? Yes. Effective? Indisputably. Rome never let crime pass like a breeze. They froze it into sculpture, into verse, into festival. The traitor became an anonymous corpse. The weak served as an example for the next generation. Thus, the empire endured, not by armies alone, not by gold alone, but by terror displayed in marketplaces, carved into stone, whispered whenever the wind swept through the plaza where you once stood. Rome did more than kill. Rome made sure you, and everyone else, never forgot. Each flicker of flame, each push from the cliff, each cold glare as you were led into the arena. Not because Rome needed you alive, but because those who remained needed to know. Roman justice does not protect. It warns. You did not merely die. You were embalmed in memory, a permanent lesson inscribed upon the empire's soul. These punishments were not merely history. They were reminders of Rome's power and cruelty. They weren't just penalties. They were performances, bloody stages upon which power was etched into flesh, every scream a message. Rome didn't simply want you dead. They wanted you to die memorably, so that generations would whisper in fear. It was not just execution, but education. From the heights of the Tarpeian Rock to the gladiatorial arena, from the heresy sack to the blazing tunica molesta, everything proclaimed, "Do not betray Rome." Take damnatio memoriae, for example, a punishment needing no blood or fire. It required only a hammer and chisel. Offend Rome, not necessarily by treason, but perhaps merely by vexing the emperor, and you would be erased from history. Statues had their faces smashed in. Your name was chiseled off stone. Books were rewritten, portraits overpainted, and your descendants forbidden even to speak your name. You did not die the usual way. You were digitally photoshopped out of existence. And the terrifying part? It worked. People truly forgot you. Names like Geta, alias Sejanus, or Domitian, once carved into grand arches, became nothing but odd gaps, strange depressions on the monuments of history. Rome did not just kill you, they killed the memory of you. Then there was the breaking wheel, that giant wooden wheel upon which the condemned were bound like roasting fowl, their joints struck and shattered with an iron hammer. Each blow rang not off the wheel, but through their limbs, hands, feet, spine. Bones splintered while skin held. Rome deliberately kept you alive just long enough to remember who held the reins of power. Sometimes, if victims still clung to life, they were then left mounted on the wheel for vultures to pick at, flies to swarm, your body a living warning, or rather, a dying one. Horrific? Certainly. Yet Rome saw it as advanced public relations. Even the gentler executions bore rich symbolism. Consider the casting into the Tiber, a sentence for traitors or those who defiled sacred rites. It wasn't merely drowning. Rome believed the Tiber's waters led to the afterlife. Tossing your corpse in was both termination and dispatch, a cold plunge amid murmured prayers. Citizens on the banks rejoiced as you drifted away. No beer, no flowers, just mud, algae, and the river swallowing you into history. And if you were a slave, things were far worse. A fugitive slave might be branded with a red-hot iron F for fugitivus, permanently marking you as runaway property, your face a living QR code. There were punishments for minor slave offenses that didn't merit death. A heavy iron collar inscribed, "I am Marcus's property. Return me, or my master will beat me to death." Such punishments were not just painful. They were daily humiliations, lasting as long as you drew breath. Rome even set examples for the upper classes. A noble caught in wrongdoing might be spared flames, hanging, or dismemberment, but instead given the honor of choosing suicide. Perhaps a cup of poison, perhaps a self-inflicted dagger, but always with ceremony. A welcoming bath, a final will, and a measured few words. Death, in this instance, became art, an elegant performance often accompanied by music. Friends would gather to bid farewell, an ultimate banquet where wine and daggers shared the stage. All of those punishments, from being burnt alive to crushed under stones, from having your throat pierced to being erased from history, shared a single purpose: control. Control of minds, control of memories, control of fear. Rome ruled not only with legions, but with the idea that no one could escape its grasp. And to reinforce that, they needed images, screams echoing through the arena, corpses dangling at the city gates, or even the strange void in a stone stele where someone's name should have been. So, when we look back on the past, don't see only gleaming armor or triumphant victories. See the sweat of the man hung upside down, the snap of bones under the executioner's club, the hollow gaze of one subjected to damnatio memoriae. Those punishments no longer exist, at least not in flesh, but their spirit still haunts us. In cancel culture, in the deletion of posts, the rewriting of history, the public shaming on social media, we are reenacting Rome, only with new tools. Rome fell, its empire once stretching across Europe now reduced to ruins, yet its legacy lives on, in our histories, in our movies, and in the ways humanity still wields fear to maintain order. The fires of the Tunica molesta have long since died out, but the fierce light of that brutality still flickers somewhere, like a shadow resting beneath the Tarpeian rock, waiting for another push, another cheer from a new generation of modern spectators. Ancient Rome, where justice was not merely judgment, but an art engraved in blood, written in fire, and carved in human bone. There, to err was not simply to incur imprisonment. It was to be cast into the arena, strapped to the wheel of torture, or surrendered to the executioner, whom Rome called the artisan of reproof. From the Vestal Virgins, guardians of the sacred flame, women who, by a single misdirected glance, could be buried alive, to the Christian faithful draped in tunica molesta, burning like torches in Nero's garden. Every punishment bore a ritual veneer, a hint of glory, and an ending best forgotten. Yet Rome would never let you forget. Never. If you were a deserter, once sworn to defend the borders, but who fled when the enemy advanced, do not hope for mercy. Decimation awaited you. Every 10th man chosen by lot, executed by his own comrades. Not because his crime was greater, but because Rome needed terror, and nothing forges fear like a friend's club upon your skull. Should you betray Rome itself, you need not wait for the temple courts. A whispered accusation would do. You might be stripped naked, paraded through the Roman Forum, and hurled from the Tarpeian rock high above, not high enough to grant flight, but more than enough to shatter bones. As your body broke upon the stones, the watchers cheered. They learned well. In an instant, Rome could uplift you, and just as swiftly cast you down. For petty thieves or rebels, there was the wooden donkey, a simple A-frame bench tipped with iron spikes upon which you were forced to sit, legs weighted down, as flesh was torn away, inch by inch, all for a loaf of bread stolen in error or a loud call in the marketplace. In Rome, the scale of the offense mattered less than the spectacle itself. On special nights, such as the emperor's garden parties, Rome unveiled the tunica molesta, an oil-soaked, pitch-drenched garment tailored to your body. When flame touched it, you did not simply burn. You became a radiant torch. The audience raised their cups, laughing beneath the flickering glow on your flesh. Should you cry out, that became the climactic drama. Rome adored its art, even when the art was your living incineration. Rome also mastered damnatio memoriae, a punishment invisible, yet weightier than torture. It did not kill you. It erased you. Your statues were defaced. Your name was chiseled from every record. Your family forbidden to speak of you. In an instant, you ceased to exist, leaving only a void in history. And everyone understood. That was the price of failing Rome's will. Death is swift. Oblivion endures forever. And for those bold enough to question Rome's faith, they received the heresy fork, a metal prong with two sharp tips, one driven under the chin, the other pressed into the breastbone. You had to stand perfectly still for hours, even days. Bow your head. The spike pierced deeper. Lift your chin. It gouged you again. You'd shiver, sweat dripping across your chest, but dare not cough or flinch. All the while, onlookers would read the Latin inscription on your collar. I have betrayed the faith, as if the agony alone wasn't already clear enough. Rome didn't merely want to terrify you. They wanted you to understand. Every step you wavered, someone was watching. That justice was the game of the powerful, and the stage was always set for your grand performance. The sinner, the victim, the living torch, and the audience. Oh, the audience was never sparse. From the tunica molesta to damnatio ad bestias, every punishment bore layers of meaning. The lion did more than tear you apart. It reminded the crowd that loyalty outweighed truth. You might be innocent, but if you wouldn't kneel before Jupiter, you were still the feast. Rome never asked for your love, only your obedience. So as you close your eyes tonight, remember that justice is not always a balance. Sometimes it's a blade's cut. Sometimes it's a torch's flame. Sometimes it's a 25-meter fall. Think of those burned, beaten, crucified, not because they were worse than you, but because they lived under an empire that knew how to turn fear into law. Ancient Rome, where justice was the brutal art, from vestal tombs to flaming robes. Each punishment a reminder. Stray once, and Rome will make you pay, in blood, in ashes, or in oblivion. If this tale sends a shiver down your spine, yet soothes your curiosity, if your heart still pounds, though your eyelids grow heavy, then hit like, subscribe, and comment where you're watching from. I'll meet you again another night with another story, so we can drift into sleep together. Good night, and try not to dream of the tunica molesta.